So, did moving countries change the way you thought about leadership and resilience?
In a way, I'm super grateful to Australia to have given me a lot of closed doors. Because had the doors opened at that point of time, I would not be sitting here. I would not be doing the things that I'm doing. So now with Mission Shakti Sat, it kind of fits in exactly where I belong because it's technology, it is global collaboration, and it is about bringing 12,000 girls from 108 countries across the world. And we're teaching them how to build satellite for free for 120 hours.
We are joined by an extraordinary leader who proves that space is not only about rockets and satellites. So, welcome to Space Friend Conversation. What does ethical storytelling mean to you?
No talking nonsense for the sake of going viral. And to answer your question, Amos, how did this is good, look, how did this come into picture? I never wanted to start Amos, nothing. But with Mission Shakti Sat, I love this dream of Dr. Srimati Kissing, where, she's the only person in the entire world to have launched 27 student-led satellite missions. And this is the 28th mission. Don't limit yourself. You can become anybody you want to become in life.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy President. The AIMERS Foundation was formally launched on Saturday, 31st of January 2026 as an Australia-registered not-for-profit organisation through a hybrid Australia-India event bringing together representatives from government, academia, industry, civil society and student leadership. B, that the AIMERS Foundation is dedicated to empowering communities through education and capability building in artificial intelligence, media, emerging fields, robotics, STEAM and space technologies, including Mission Shakti Sat by co-founder Ms. Sukruti Narayanan.
Congratulates the AIMERS team, in particular Sukruti Narayana.
Can I just take this opportunity to formally acknowledge the attendance of Ms. Narayanan and Ms. Annan in the gallery here today. You are all both very welcome here.
Today on Space Friend Conversation, we are joined by an extraordinary leader who sits at the intersection of space, education, communication, ethics, and global empowerment. She is expert reviewer for UNESCO 8 Science Report, founder and president of the AIMERS Foundation, head of global partnerships for Mission Shakti Sat, a science communicator, ethical storyteller, SBS contributor, and author of 3 books. Her work is helping shape one of the world's most ambitious educational space initiatives, an all-female-led lunar mission engaging 12,000 girls across 108 countries through satellite building and STEM education. Welcome back to Space Friend Conversation, the podcast where we explore the people, ideas, and missions shaping humanity's future in space. Today's episode is deeply inspiring because we are speaking with someone who proves that space is not only about rockets and satellites, it's also about people, inclusion, education, and storytelling. Our guest Suk Narayanan has built a remarkable journey across engineering, robotics, communications, media, and global STEM advocacy. From co-founding robotics initiatives impacting hundreds of thousands of students to now helping lead the global Mission Shakti Sat initiative, she is creating pathways for young girls around the world to participate directly in space exploration. Suk, welcome to Space Friend Conversation. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Divya. Seriously, you're in 10th episode already.
Yes.
It just looked like the first episode. And thank you for everything that you do with a lot of dedication. and with the determination. Well, you are a little down today with fever and cold, but still you choose to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudh. So, your career spans engineering, robotics, communications, media, leadership, and now space education. Looking back, what first sparked your curiosity for science and technology?
Well, I would say the Children's Britannica book at home. We had that 26 volume book where, well, it is a leather bound book with all the alphabet A to Z out there. I think we had 28 because we had 2 volumes for A and we had 2 for D, I think. So just flipping through the pages of that book, seeing various science terms, I think I love the spirit of the large things. So that drew me to the subject of science. And well, my grandfather is an engineer, mechanical engineer, and I'm a third generation engineer in my family. So I think, well, I love physics and maths, but I wanted to be a teacher. But
Yeah, I think many people assume career happens in a straight line, but your journey shows through your experience, your journey shows how diverse experiences can actually build stronger leader like you.
well, one thing I can very strongly say is my path is nothing but linear. It's all over the place, and I loved it every bit. Because now, usually we've heard of this saying where, hey, you know what? You'd be like, if you're a jack of all, you'll be master of none. But I would like to complete that sentence by saying, jack of all, master of one is better than master of none.
That's amazing.
Because it is quite important to have the diverse understanding of the ecosystem.
Yes.
And well, all this journey has helped me in whatever I'm doing now, both, with Amos, with Mission Shakti Sat, and with global missions. So I'm very grateful. So,
Yeah, I think you are an inspiration to many women. The way you talk, the way you put your words, it's really inspiring. So, you started in engineering and robotics long before the recent AI boom. What did you see early on that convinced you technology would transform society?
well, this was long before AI boom, back in 2008 and 9, like very, kind of like prehistoric, I would
Yeah.
say. But one thing that I found was, yes, I'm an engineer and I used to code robots, quadbots and hexbots while I was studying. And though we were in a classroom which had 50-50, when you're talking about gender equality, when I'm being asked, so were you the only girl in your engineering cohort? I'm like, no. In fact, we had maybe 1 or 2 more girls than the boys in our engineering. But what slowly, now I can say confidently, but back then I was the only girl or only person working for a robotics coding company. And the others would either, well, we don't work back in India while we are in uni, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But even if they did, they used to go for tutoring or well, we didn't work. That is the honest thing. And that is when I saw studying engineering, especially electrical electronics, and I should work for my core industry. And interestingly, with the job perspective, I think this is really nice because you have the IT conglomerates actually mass recruiting students. They have a job, they have like a good salary in their hand, it's great. But for the ecosystem, I think it is not too great because studying in electrical and electronics engineering, I should be contributing to this sector, but that doesn't happen. So that is where the whole shift happens, and I was the only girl or only person to code robots. I became a tutor there, and over a year, just I'm teaching like 3 to 4 batches on how to code, and it's giving date moments. to your quadbots and hexbots, and people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I make a 4-legged or a 6-legged robot walk. It's servo motors. I give gait movements. I code." They're like, "You can buy a toy from a toy store. Why are you wasting time?" I'm like, "Oh, right." And I tell them, I don't like to touch my nose like this. I like to touch like this and jump 10 times. That's my style. But that got me to thinking, why are we not having enough takers? And that led me to the journey, just asking why and not accepting to be in a box.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a rebel, but I would always like to challenge things if I am not convinced, because anything and everything I've done is because of the strong conviction, strong belief that I've had. And if I don't have that, I would be like, no, this is not for me. I will not do it, no matter how lucrative. So that has helped, and that has shaped my path with engineering, with everything I've been doing with it.
It's wonderful to hear how confident you were in what you were doing. And moving on to, you have worked across India, Australia, and collaborated globally. How did those experiences shape your worldview about innovation and access to opportunity?
It's an interesting question because Mission Shakti Sat is my third global project. So my first one was in 2017, where I was a global manager for World Communication Forum. As much as I love engineering, my mentor said I was really good with public relations. I had no idea what it was. And somewhere, I think most of us can resonate with it, where if someone says we're good at something, we will not accept that and we'll be like, well, I don't have formal experience in it. I need a degree. I need a certificate to prove that I am good at this. So, well, I also didn't want to believe, and I did my post-graduation in public relations, and that got me a job, an opportunity to work for World Communication Forum. So my first experience was working with 58 countries across the world, having public relations and communication professionals coming together for a conference in Geneva for World Communication Forum. It was a communication conference, 5-day long. And that was incredible because it showed me that doesn't matter which part of the world you are. It is about that spirit of collaboration.
Yes.
It's about the spirit of, it is hard work by end of the day.
Yeah.
There is no substitute to that. And I saw more the people who were, top of the ladder, they were taking actions immediately.
Yes.
That signal to noise ratio was like, minimal. Because immediately they want to do something, they'll take their phone, they'll do it. They will not leave it for later. And my second experience was, interestingly, I moved to Australia. So this event was in March 2017. I remember between 13 and 17 of March in Geneva. And April 22, we are moving our base here completely. We're calling Australia our home. So that was an interesting experience. I came here and, Australia is a very different ecosystem. We'll talk about it later. But through my journey here as a director of public relations for a media company, that was my second global opportunity where we involved 102 countries. It was a singing competition, very simple one, but I like to blow things out of proportion and do it in, large scale. So it was good. So that actually taught me how people want to make something out. Yeah. All they need is an opportunity.
Yes.
So now with Mission Shakti Sat, it kind of fits in exactly where I belong because it's technology, it is global collaboration, and it is about bringing 12,000 girls from 108 countries across the world. And we're teaching them how to build a satellite for free for 120 hours.
Yes.
So this mission is a testament to me that we have a lot of talent, but they do not have access to opportunities. And if you're able to bridge that, because, there are many developed countries, okay, forget about developed or not developed, okay? Generally, a person who's hungry, who has fire, if they are given something, the output that comes from that is so different to the people who have it all and they're like, no, it's full, nah, it's okay. Yeah, it is good opportunity. I'm like, no, grab it.
Yes.
So I would say this is the difference, whether it is local or global or regional. Now I've come to a conclusion that whole world is one. You need to have that sense of unity and togetherness and innovation. Every country brings enormous innovation.
Yes.
And we, especially when I talk about innovation, based on the geographical constraints or the problems that is local, everyone comes with a different solution.
Yeah.
And we need the problems. Problems are our friends. If you're going to be like, oh, problem-free life, pain-free life, no, it is a punishment. So I think a huge mind shift is required. But with Mission Shakti Sir, with all my global experience, I think people are really willing to work together. They want to make a difference. And if you're going to collab with the right person, it really uplifts you, your country, and the world as a whole.
Yeah, because I believe in different countries' approach to innovation different in a different way, and but leadership and resilience seem to become the critical lessons for any team. Yeah,
100% yes.
yeah. So, did moving countries change the way you thought about leadership and resilience?
200% yes. In a way, I'm super grateful to Australia to have given me a lot of closed doors. Because had the doors opened at that point of time, I would not be sitting here. I would not be doing the things that I'm doing. Now, yesterday, actually, I was looking back. Yeah, I had so many job opportunities who said no, no, and I'm so grateful to them. And they told yes. And one thing I hear is, Suk, you're super overqualified. I'm like, that is up to me. I need this job. You don't worry whether I'm qualified or not. Just give me this goddamn job, because at this point of time, I am a little unsure about my capabilities. And I don't know if I'm relevant, if my work is relevant, if my experience is relevant. So a job would actually give me that peace of mind. But the country didn't help me with that because, my job experiences were very different and it taught me resilience. And now I'm able to advocate. I'm able to, talk about the different problems that I have gone through. And this is something that everyone goes through. So through our foundation, we are able to say that, no, we have to give dignity to technologists. That is very, very, very important. Because not everyone has to go through this tough, resilient, what do you call it? Like, engineering. It is not that in Australia, the rocket will go in a reverse direction and in India or any other country, it follows the no. The principle is the same. Give them an opportunity. So working in a restaurant or working in a supermarket, will that give me a local experience? What kind of local experience are we talking about?
Yeah.
So all this has come as a frustration or a real big concern because of, doors closing here for a long time.
I agree with you.
Because it's important. We're all engineers. We earned that degree. And for me, I've earned it through, education loan. I'm from a very middle class, not like born with silver spoon. No, we had ever silver spoon for sure. So coming from a middle class, for us, it was like, the huge thinking. Our dreams, our hard work, that is our, investment. And like us, we have so many millions out there.
Yeah.
They come with dreams. And I feel the country should be able to take that advantage of these talents. Because I was so fortunate to have Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam as my mentor. I've reached about 500,000 students back in India with outreach with my Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Foundation, which I co-founded. I was 21, 22, and I'm so grateful for all that I got back in India. His, Dr. Kalam, scientific advisor, who was part of our advisory committee. So all I know is outreach, science, more students coming and, creating that ecosystem was what I know.
Yes.
When I come new to a country and, the title, co-founder, president, and what job will I search for? I don't know. And people here like, Suk, maybe you are into event management. I'm like, I don't think so. Yes, I have hosted 78 events. For our foundation and RAFE. And one of them was 17,000 people coming together.
That's a huge number.
For a science event, yes. And I actually have that. I see a secret book here, and I'm actually manifesting this in your Space Print conversation that I am envisioning to have 21,000 people at the Kudos Bank Arena for a science festival.
You will definitely. Yeah.
Because why is science not glamorized like a cricket, like your music, like your Hollywood or Bollywood?
Yeah.
So we have to change. I am, about changing that entire outlook of science because it's part of our everyday life. And slowly we will.
Yeah, I think, and that perhaps might what led you towards founding this Amos Foundation. Yeah, creating more inclusive opportunities for others. Yeah. So you often speak about democratizing technology and education. Where does that mission come from personally to you?
The very first thought of electronics for boys and embroidery for girls came to me back in India in 2011 and 12. Because I was the only girl, always a room full of boys. And I'm like, where are the other girls? Why are they not coming? And well, we're talking about gender equality and all that now. Sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, Suk, you thought about it. And it has come in interviews in 2013s and all that. Yeah. So it is a written proof. It's not something that I'm making it up. So it feels good that back in 2012 and 13, I have thought about it. And talking about democratizing the whole thing, I feel the private school children actually have a lot of advantage and easy access to opportunities because of money.
Yeah.
And even if there are a lot of free opportunities, I see that a lot of gatekeepers who want to only package it and sell it at a higher cost for these private schools, international schools. And this thought of democratizing science and opportunity came from Dr. APJ Kalam. Because he was very particular that irrespective of a child from a private school or a government school, they all have the same amount of enthusiasm. And that spark, when we say space, when you say electricity and everything, they have their eyes go, yes, white, right? So they all have the same spark. Yes. So I got this thought from Dr. Kalam. And though coming to Australia, and it has been very different, like for me to get that back, it took, 7 years. Because my pathway was anything but linear. Acted in a movie, completely shot in Australia, phone banking, door knocking for unions in New South Wales, and getting bashings from them, telling them, why are you doing this? And I'm like, it took 3 years for me to tell them back that, I'm not even employed, but I'm talking for the workers' rights. But at that time, you don't know. You're new to a country and you go into a cocoon. Yes. So I've done that many times. I've gone into the shell thinking, why should I do that? But for Mission Shakti Sat, but for Dr. Srimati Kesan, I don't think I would have founded Amos Foundation. I would have started this whole not-for-profit thing again because it requires a lot of work with not-for-profit.
Yes.
And with questions, why are you doing? What will you do for your bills? And interestingly, not even a single person has asked me for Amos. What are you doing? How are you paying your bills? Oh, charity, it's all good. But I used to hear a lot about this back in India with Rafe. And I'm like, I'm so tired. Again, being the only woman, full of questions, doubts. You're a girl. You're so young. You can't do it. After a point, it becomes really, I can't deal with it anymore. It's a lot of toxicity.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what exactly you're talking about.
And we all go through. So for me, I felt, I don't want to do anything. So when anyone talks to me about technology, when I moved to Australia, I'd be like, please don't talk to me about my experience back in India with technology. Let's erase that chapter. I really want to forget that chapter and move on.
Yes.
And unfortunately, my co-founder, he passed away due to cancer as well. And I felt, okay, you know what? I don't want to talk about Rafe. Maybe it was fluke. Maybe, because of Dr. Kalam, I got all these opportunities. I don't want to do it. But Mission Shakti Sat has kind of rekindled the whole thing. And especially with my experience that I've gone through here, migrants not getting the opportunity. The teenagers, they learn a lot from working for big chains like Macos and Domino's. What next? They should be given an opportunity to work for technology companies for those who are interested. And that there is no opportunity for that. And we are really going backwards, with the reports that I actually, I'm curating with people from various ecosystems. It is not enough. We are nowhere in the map. And if this continues, kangaroos equals camels equals human. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
There will not be much difference because, things have to change. So democratizing science and education and opportunities is super important for me. And I'll do every bit to give that remotest child in regional Australia. Well, I would say that for the entire world. But for me, I think I live here. I become a citizen here. I want to start from here. I want to give that child that opportunity
Yeah.
to change their own worlds.
Yeah. And you have that passion for accessibility, which eventually, led you to find something much larger through this Amos Foundation. And all the best for starting the Amos Foundation and, trying to guide many students, showing the path towards innovation.
Thank you, Divya.
So, for people hearing about Amos Foundation for the first time, what is the vision behind it?
Our dream with Amos. So Amos is an acronym. Empowering communities of all ages, irrespective of gender, age, postcode. No, we want to give them an opportunity in technology. So we want to give dignity to all the technologists. That is our main motto for Amos. And Amos is an acronym
Yes.
for empowering communities in AI, media, emerging fields, robotics, STEAM, and space technology. I have very good friends come to me and they're like, Suk, that is a spelling mistake.
Yeah.
It is STEAM. It should have been STEM. I'm like, no, it is STEM plus arts. So it is STEAM and it is very intentional because why we've coined it this way is, normally when we say science, people are really putting it very farther and it is not very close to people. And there are very rigid structures. If you are interested in science, these are the rigid. There is no creativity. There is no space for all. That's why we're including this element. And about the foundation itself, our collective goal is to make Australia the global innovation hub by 2050.
That's interesting.
We really want to tackle that, not only from the students' perspective. So with Amos Foundation, we have students, school students, uni students. When I say uni, we call them as tertiary council because we are including universities and TAFE as well. It is not just universities. TAFE is another, very key segment there. We have universities, colleges. We have the corporate tech companies involved. And we're also having independent counselors.
Yes.
Because we need to tackle the problem from all the directions. And I'm so proud, so happy to share that we have 4 of the Australian Prime Minister Science Prize winners as part of our advisory board.
That's really amazing.
There is so much work to do. We have Australian Science Teachers Association. They are a 75-year-old organization. And the president of the association, Paula Taylor, she is Australian Prime Minister Prize winner for 2025. So she's joined our board. And I have to mention about our 2 advisory council chairs, Professor Scott Sleep and Veena Nair. They are amazing. They have, I would say, it is kind of, the more you keep doing, the more frustrations you face, more closed doors you face. At some point or the other, right, things will start ticking.
Yes.
And when I share the pain point and when I say this is the vision, it is coming from my heart. It's not just my lips talking about it. People can resonate.
Yes.
And that is the energy that I bring in. And I can't thank what Professor Scott Sleep, Veena, Paula, everyone. To be honest, every single one of them who've joined our board, they have that vision of we have to do something for the STEM ecosystem. We want to really bring that change. That's why we're all come together. And our heart goes to that child who's in the most remotest of place, who is not getting opportunity. And we all want this country to really flourish and do well with innovation, innovation. It can be something like a far-fetched thing, but at least contribution with technology, bringing in many migrant engineers, Divya. What I see is to go through this, right? Like I was a telecommunication, like telesales consultant. Title is so fancy. But back in India, they're like, it's a BPO job. Come back to India. What are you doing? And I felt I'm a new person. I have to forget all, that for me it was easy because I didn't want to think about Rafe. I'm like, I want to forget it. It was too much for me, I can't take it anymore. And I thought I would fit into another box. I was number one in sales in Sydney, Adelaide and Melbourne with Optus. And because of that, they made me a sales coach. I was a sales coach for a service team. So service hate sales.
Yes.
So you could imagine when I go, they would be like, whatever, why are you here? I'm like, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm getting paid for. So I always had that attitude, like where I'm like, I'm here to make a difference.
Yes.
It's up to you to take it or not to take it. And that was kind of, that is resilience by end of the day. And that made heads turn. And a floor which does zero sales. In a period of 5 months, after all training, we came with a competition. And in 3 days, they were able to do 503 sales. And they were there to stay. And sir, can you do this for Philippines and Mumbai office as well? That is when it hit me. I didn't work with Dr. Kalam to sell mobile phone plans and mobile phones. But this experience also taught me, if I believe in something, I usually dislike that, where if I believe in something, I can convince people and say, hey, please give it a go. But then I felt I can use this for something else. And then I went to a media company. I was, having public relations as my post-graduation. I joined this media company as a director for public relations and business growth. My main intention was highlighting the migrant stories.
Okay.
Because, migrants should not go through the journey that I've gone through. We need to highlight their stories and they need to, I knew they need to get into the sector that they belong to, but I didn't know how. But I started doing that. And we were there in 3 world record books. After COVID hit, it was a music competition and we really did it well. And then the request, we were at the ZTV office and we were there at the Ramoji Film City with the CEO of Enadu and all. And they were like, we're talking about bringing celebrities to Australia. That is when it hit me. What? I'm into celebrity management now? No. This is not what I want to do. I have so much respect for artists, for actors and for the entire movie crew because I've acted in a movie. Definitely not for me. But I see the amount of hard work and amount of, what it takes to, be an artist and do everything. But I felt, no, this is not for me. So I feel all this journey has given that, let me experiment. I know where I stand. I know I'm really good at it. Now I strongly know. It is not that I need another experience to say I'm good at sales. I need another experience to see whether I'm good at PR. I now confidently know. Having known all this, now I felt, we're taking up Mission Shakti Sat.
Yes.
And to answer your question, Amos, how did this is good, look, how did this come into picture? I never wanted to start Amos, nothing. But with Mission Shakti Sat, I loved this dream of Dr. Srimati Kesan, where, she's the only person in the entire world to have launched 27 student-led satellite missions. Yes. And this is the 28th mission. So I just loved the fact that, I know her for the past 15 years now. Because when I was having Rafe, she used to take students to NASA, the space camps. That's how, we were connected. And even 6 years ago, I went to her home and we were just chatting about life. That's all. Even now, when I speak to her, I'm like, do you remember? Randomly, I came to your home and she was super sweet. I felt like, wow, I just loved that conversation. And 6 years fast forward, I am working with her. I'm integral part of everything that I do for her. And she is everything to me. And Mission Shakti Sat didn't have a home in Australia. And that actually frustrated me. I felt, seriously, this is a free mission. There is no cost involved. And big organizations, why don't you want to talk about it?
Yes.
It takes nothing. I'm not asking for funding. I'm not asking, just talk, spread the word.
Yes.
But no, in a way I understand because, suddenly nobody is talking something big, so we don't know how true it is. So I do understand as well. But for the ones who believed, now I'm getting real good traction. I'm so grateful. And that is where Amos is born.
Yeah.
Because I feel with Amos, I'm trying to solve, or I am solving multiple things. One, give dignity to technologists of all ages. Seniors, well, they should not be neglected or discarded because they don't know to use AI. They have vast experience, and AI is just a natural, it's a language modeling tool.
Yes.
And all you have to do is, they have more logic, they have more grit than our generation ever. Any problem that comes in, they'll be like, ha. And I tell it with conviction because I was raised in a family where it was my mom, my mom's mom, my mom's mom's mom.
Okay.
My grandmom's grandmom was around till my 8th grade. 5 generations. Well, I can take pride of being 4 generations in the same roof. Even before marriage, my great grandma passed away in 2020. So I've seen her see so many problems and nothing will shake her.
Yes.
So I think we have to involve seniors in this dialogue, in this so-called AI era. And all this we are able to do with Amos. Because all I thought was, as an individual, if I'm going to say all this, so you need to focus on one thing. You should, you don't have energy. You're not having, but as a foundation, these are the projects we're running. There's so much respect.
Yes.
So I'm like, the shift happens when, that is what made me feel. With Amos, I don't want to run just our own projects, but any other person having a very interesting, project for education, for science and technology, Amos will be a home for that. Because not everyone can start a foundation. It's a lot of work. So
Yes.
for all the individuals out there, whoever is seeing this, if you're an individual or a small business or an organization in itself, if you think you have anything to offer for the technology community, or if you think Amos can help you in any possible way, please do reach out. And Amos is about giving dignity to all the technologists out there.
That is what I love about you founding the Amos Foundation, because it is not teaching. It is not just teaching students the theory, but it's giving them exposure to real innovation, I think. Yeah. So Amos stands for, as you mentioned, Amos stands for AI, media, emerging fields, robotics, and STEAM. So why was it important for you to combine all these domains together instead of treating them separately?
To be honest, our name of the foundation was Raise Me originally. Raise Me Pty Ltd is our foundation, which has the ACNC. Due to say a trademark and IP reasons, we had to rename the foundation. But I was very particular. I need the foundation to be around these interdisciplines. Because when we say technology, it doesn't operate in silos. It is all put together, and mainly I wanted the media component added to it. Because interestingly, even with Mission Shakti Sat, I talked to so many journalists, and we have our Global Digital Journalist Forum in the making. Because When we say reaching out and journalism, the basic element of that is curiosity. Ask questions.
Yes.
Search why is it like this? And it's not just opinion based. So what's happening these days is this is right, this is wrong. That is not journalism. Journalism is about bringing both the sides of the same coin, and it's up to a reader. Like, they might resonate it in so many different ways. Leave it to the reader. So these days people only listen to an op-ed, and it is like, okay, this is correct, this is wrong. Like, our analytical skills are dying. We don't even question anything. So I wanted to bring the media element to it because technologists can't talk,
Yes.
or that is how they're perceived. But we need people breaking things down very easily. A common person should understand. So that is why Amos has all the disciplines come together, because it can't be in silos. And again, certain people resonate with maths and physics. For the others, they're like, oh, it's too much. I hate maths. I don't want it. Well, don't take it. But science is part of everyday life.
Yes.
You could, whether it's policy or whether into policy analysis, or whether you are into narrating something very interestingly, science plays an important role. So you decide how you want to exercise science. You can either be a researcher, you could be a scientist, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an educator. You could actually talk about science, or you can also say, what is about this science I really don't understand? Go with it.
Yeah.
But it should be part of the conversation. That's why I have all these things put together, so that somehow or the other people can resonate.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because when students are exposed to multiple disciplines together, it often, like as you explain, it often reveals barriers which most of the people don't talk about, right? So I think the mission of Amos is it is foundational for any students to expose to different disciplines. Yeah. So you have worked with students from very different socio-economic backgrounds. What are some hidden barriers stopping talented young people from entering STEM education?
I would say access. Because when a child, now I think with the advent of internet, it's kind of becoming okay. But I'm talking from the times, 2010s and 12s, long time ago. For a child to come to a location and to do, it costs money. It's not free. But even these days, I see, especially with, when we talk about Mission Shakti, that many developing nations, having internet is such a luxury. So we think we are taking it for granted. Come on, anyone can become anything. But proper internet connection is a huge luxury for the students. And somehow getting access to that is being hard. And even in Australia, a study says that a regional Australian student, they are like close to 1.5 to 2.5 years behind what's actually happening. With the cities. So a student from a low socioeconomic background, they have the hunger, and somehow they look for the opportunity, and those are the kinds of children we want to nourish. And when I say nourish, it's not just the food. It is about the opportunities. Anyone can become anybody that they wish to, but you should have that deep desire of, this is not enough. I want it. That should be burning all the time. So we are spotting that from, because with low socio-economic background, these children want to make something better of their lives and their family and the generation. So they will not stop, because they're like, no, I see others who are living really well. So I also want to, uplift my family. So that is the biggest asset for any nation. And that is why India is thriving, especially with the startup ecosystem. Because most of the entrepreneurs are from your Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, which we are failing to tap here in Australia. And it is high time we do that, because you have so much potential with burning desire to make things really better. because the brain drain is true. And you need to utilize that high energy, high potential. Well, you have to nurture them. It's a little longer ROI, but really worth it.
Yeah, that is the one thing that I really admire about you, is that you focus not only on learning, but also, I don't know how to say, you're trying to create new innovation. If you agree.
I would say when I say when we say innovation, it is more about the process and approach. That I would agree, because to be honest, it is not new. It is a very old practice, but we're all forgotten it.
Yes.
I'm just reminding, and I'm telling this with strong conviction because it has worked in India. I've played a huge role in reaching out to the rural population back in India, and I've seen it, and I'm seeing how things are thriving. So having that, well, with all these experiences, one thing that I've felt is, for me, seeing is believing. And it is this case with anybody.
Yeah.
We can't build things in air and, you say. But Mission Shakti Sat has also given me that confidence that when I joined, we were recruiting countries. We didn't have any girls in the platform or anything. But, working 2 a.m.s, 3 a.m.s, my daughter, she was 14 months when I was part of the mission. I took a break, actually. Since my pregnancy to my daughter being, a year, I thought I'm not going to do anything. Have happily retired. I'm just going to be at home. This was my plan. But well, life has different plans. And every time I take a break, I get 3 times the more work to do. So, so this process is not very new. It looks like it is innovative, but this is the way it is to create an ecosystem with no leaks. And it should be sustainable. So I hope that I really succeed and make this a global model.
You will, because you're trying to create innovators. So you will definitely.
Thank you.
So one thing that stood out to me is your focus on helping students publish research, file patents, and build startups. Why is hands-on innovation so important?
I would say everything starts with it, because you need to have innovative brains for a country to thrive. And I felt as much as we are focusing about R&D in labs and, with PhD students and beyond, we're not involving school children.
Yes.
And interestingly, we are mapping the PhD researchers and school students. That is happening. We are working closely with Brahmand Lab with Dr. Kshitij Mal from Purdue University. And we are creating this model. And talking about the journals, I felt journal is a very interesting way where students can articulate their thoughts effectively. And a concept of science should be taken, and they should be able to structure it well. That is a starting point.
Yes.
Because that is how you're building an idea. If you do not have a starting point, then, everything is everywhere.
Yeah.
So we want students to start having journals in their name. So Make a Mark is our journal into the 2nd edition by end of this week. And we've got the ISSN number. And we are submitting our work to National Library of Australia. So this gives that student, a pride factor. Because I feel when we say Amos is going to, make Australia a global innovation hub by 2050, that is our vision. But how? We need to tap the children when they're young. We need to tap the migrant technologies. We need to tap the retired technologists. And when I say students, right? 3 things that we really want students to work on. Even today, while I was traveling in the train, I saw 2 girls only talking about their boyfriends. And I'm like, and they should be in their school, high school, wearing uniform. I don't know, maybe they bunked the class, or I don't know what happened there. But I feel if you'll be lucky or unlucky, I don't know, time should answer, to be with the person that you met in your high school there. it hardly happens.
Yes.
And most of the times you will ensure that you do everything to erase their photos, their contacts, and everything possible. That's what happens. But your prime time of your life is lost.
Yeah.
So if under 20, students are able to talk about how many papers they've published, how many patents they have in their name, how many courses or startups they are working for, I think that conversation would actually make a healthy country towards your, innovation index.
I completely agree.
Because, well, I feel the children, they have no other option. That's why they're doing this. If they know they will be incentivized for all these things that, just, okay, we're being given dignity. So if someone publishes a paper, we have people around making fun, oh, this person is a nerd, you have, there is no respect. So the whole ecosystem should change. So talking about research and innovation, we want to involve students as young as possible.
Yeah.
So they write their thoughts. And one interesting initiative that we've also included is, Divya, as much as we have a journal for students, to write, it's an academic journal. What about a student who wants to communicate science, but not through writing? So we have Amos cartoons, Amos Toons, because we feel cartoon is a very powerful way
Yes.
of, in one page, you have to give an entire perspective in a very, funny way.
Yeah.
So we have introduced Amos Toons, and that was launched by the Shadow State Minister for Science and Technology, Honorable Jackie Munro. And I'm so excited because now students are like, oh, okay, we can draw cartoons, and that is another bit. So everyone has a very different way of contributing to the innovation ecosystem. So let it be their way, but the objective is innovation.
Yes.
You do it the way you like.
Yeah, I think the future of economy is not about having students with degrees. I actually believe it. It will need creators, problem solvers, and also leaders. I think Amos is the best platform for students who are looking for opportunities to grow, a right path for them to excel in their respective fields. Yeah, Amos would definitely help them.
Thank you. Yes.
So, what skills do you think the next generation absolutely must develop if they want to thrive in the future space economy?
Determination and grit.
Yeah.
When you hear no, just don't feel low, just don't crumble. You might hear even 1,000 no's in your life. But that no is for the idea that you've mentioned. Because as a sales coach, this is something I learned. Because I tell the team, when a customer says no, I tell them, don't take it personal. And all these experience, I honestly say, you can be in any field and still you could be in space sector. Because space is so welcoming. And we need people from very different backgrounds in the space sector. So do whatever you want. Do it from your heart. Put your heart and soul. Because each activity that you do will teach you something strong. With sales experience, I learned 2 things. ABC, it is called, which is always be closing. That is a very effective form of communication. Because if you want a work done, and if you're going to say, I will call you ASAP. What does ASAP mean? I'll do it soon. It is so ambiguous. What does soon mean? Who's soon? Is it your soon or is it my soon? We don't know. So when we say communication itself, right, it has to be very time bound and very specific. So say my sales experience has taught me about ABC. When we say always be closing, I will not say to the customer, I would call you very soon. I would say, I will call you tomorrow 5 p.m. to close this sale or to get this processed for you.
Yeah.
And the customer might be like, yes, okay. Or they might be, oh, not tomorrow. Okay, then when works? So that is very important. Be very specific. So sales taught me, and when I'm able to implement that with my work, it works like a charm.
Yeah, it does.
Because every field you work for, any job, right, it teaches you something.
Yeah.
Learn that. Learn that. What is this experience teaching me? If you have that questioning, that is very important, whether you're in space sector or any sector. And please don't take no for an answer. Because I'm so grateful for all the no's I heard. Because had it been a S, my life would have been so different. I would not be here. And I love what I'm doing to the bits. Yes, I work I work until 2 a.m.s, I work 3 a.m.s, but I love it. I really sometimes my husband is like, seriously, are you who works so late and who feels so happy? I'm like, no, the body of work you do.
Yes.
So interesting. Mind you, I don't get paid a single cent. It is not, it is too good to be true. But I know we are creating a change in the ecosystem. By the way, if someone wants to donate for Aimers, please go for it. We are looking for collaborators for donations and sponsorships. But one thing, all this apart, I feel to create a big change, you don't need a lot of money. That is what Mission Shakti Sat has shown. 12,000 girls, 108 countries, 18 months down the mission. We've been running without funds. Well, we've been having donors for creating curriculum and things like that, but we've all been doing it pro bono. And with Aimers, we're bringing something called 15 minutes of volunteering.
Okay.
Because I feel when I say I want to give dignity to technologists, I also want to give dignity to the field of not-for-profit sector. Because normally, when people talk, two things that really hit me really hard, Divya. One is, do you think it's rocket science? Can't you do it? I'm like, why is rocket science very difficult? You just break things down.
Yeah.
We're going to have a rocket launch, by the way, in December. We are working on it with students led.
Okay.
So hopefully, I really look for all your wishes and support to make it a success. And my second statement that really feels like, this is bad is, we're running business. Do you think we're running charity? And I'm like, how difficult it is to run charity more than business.
Yeah.
And because, I want to give dignity. Because no matter what we do, everyone does it. They've not figured it out. They are in the process of figuring out. Be forgiving. Don't judge so quickly. Not everyone has everything figured out. Until 2 days before the launch of Aimers, the name was Race Me. And I tell the minister, well, it is Aimers. She's like, is it Race Me or Aimers? What should I say? I'm like, the spirit is the same. The same. Race Me was robotics, AI, STEM, emerging fields, and media.
Yes.
And this one, letters just jumbled in different order.
Yes.
I didn't have it figured. But I feel the more I take the action steps, I get more clarity. Don't wait, what is in it for me? You never know what is in it for you. But when you do it, it'll give you manifold results. So anyone who want to enter the space sector, have the determination, have the grit. For anything in life, actually, forget space.
Yeah.
Space is so welcoming. So everyone can be part of the sector. But have determination. Very important.
Determination plays a major role. Without determination, I can definitely say nobody will be able to reach where they wanted to. Determination is really, really important for anyone to have.
Because, we think someone will come and save. No one will come and save. We only have to, save ourselves.
Yeah.
And combine that determination with kindness. Because sometimes, right, let me be brutally honest. And you will have, very hurtful comments coming out. Luckily, I haven't got that, I should say. But I've heard this happening for others. And, well, if it was for me, I would have handled differently. But it's happening for others. I can't jump in. But I feel like we don't need brutality in this world.
Yeah.
You could... with all the changes we're bringing with Aimers, I'm very clear that, yes, we want a change in system, but it should come from a position of respect. I want to give dignity to the other person to whom I'm sharing my thoughts. And if they don't understand, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because that is the level of understanding or scope they have. But when you fail, when you miss on all this and you're aggressive, it really doesn't help. Being determined is one thing, but calling names, not being pleasant is something very different.
Yeah, please.
So that difference, if this generation knows, because sometimes they get confused about, what, I'm a strong woman and I will use only FO and I'll use all the bleep bleep languages and that makes me, I'm empowered woman. No, that doesn't. Empowerment and using filthy, language has nothing to do with each other.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with
Silent power, I think that goes a long way.
this generation is completely different than what we were.
And I am able to tell that with conviction because I see Dr. Srimati Kesan. I've never ever heard her complain about any situation, any person. Sometimes I'm like, this is not fair, this is happening. She'll be like, everything happens for a reason. She lets it go. And I feel that is the only approach that has really changed me because maybe 2 years ago, if you had asked me about leadership, I'd have a different, I'm like, go, go, go. If this is not happening, it's okay. You go with this, But Dr. Kesan is about, you can drop, how many people can you drop in this world? You can't, because with Mission Shakti Sat, 108 countries. Each of the ambassadors, they are amazing people. They are like leaders in their own domain and they have their own personal life. So many things will be happening.
Yeah.
And had I followed my previous approach of, what, it's not working, okay, I'm going to find another person, I would have felt burned out. I would have not had that connection.
Yes.
So today, I take the phone, I call all my 107 because Australia is one of them and I'm ambassador for Australia. I call all the ambassadors and they're like, Suk, we can't wait to meet you in India. That bond. And I know, yes, one of them have been, they've gone through tough times. One of them has been pregnant. I remember one of them didn't reply for me for over 4 months. And I told to Dr. Kesan, this is too much. It's really harming the mission. I'm going to find. She said, just text her and give her a call and see what she says. She says, Suk, I'm super sorry. I had, complexity with pregnancy and, my little one is born. Now I'm okay. Now I want to give back. I was almost in tears. And that's when I realized people go through so many things. And only through kindness, through inclusivity, everything will come together.
Yeah.
If not 108 countries, no, how can you, and everyone are volunteering. How will you fire someone? Yeah, I'm not happy with you, No, doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So Dr. Kesan, she didn't just preach. I've seen her live through, because some people, right, patience comes when there is convenience. We say all, be good, do this as long as it is convenient for me. If it's not convenient, then we'll be like, what, I can't do it anymore. But with Dr. Kesan, I've seen her be that person in toughest of times. Someone else snatching the credit, snatching the glory, do everything, right? Should be okay, God has a plan. And when you are really kind but it is not like being silent and stupid is a different thing, but she'll be like, okay, let it go, we'll see what. But I've seen people turn around and just be there. And that is what taught me, what a powerful woman means, a confident woman means.
Yeah.
Keep doing your work. And the credit will follow.
Yeah, that will. Definitely having patience. I think it's a beautiful art any woman can have.
Yes. Slowly the next gen is diminishing that. But yes, the qualities for the next gen for space, well, patience is the key thing because even in Earth, everything is forgiving. But in space, there is no forgiveness.
Space is unforgiving.
Yes.
Mission Shakti Sat is such a bold and historic initiative. Can you explain the mission and the vision behind this all-female led lunar satellite project?
Well, Mission Shakti Sat is an audacious dream of Dr. Srimati Kesan. And, I can only imagine her to come up with these crazy thoughts. And someone recently asked me, Suk, was it your dream to be part of this mission? I said, anyone with a sane mind will not jump into projects like this. I didn't know what I was thinking. I just said, yes, let me do it. And well, we've come this far. And with the nature of Dr. Kasen that I was mentioning earlier, I think this mission is not just a technology transfer or anything, but we are creating an army of girls
Yes.
who will be very confident leaders, compassionate, will be very strong, and we're very sure 15 years down the line, these girls will be leaders in their own domain, and we'll have camaraderie-ship. If one country is calling the other, hey, I'm in trouble, the other will be in a position to help, especially with a geopolitical scenario that is happening.
Yeah.
I can't, think about that huge vision of Dr. Kasen because it is her thoughts, and I'm like, yeah, it is creating a movement. It's creating a ripple. And she very patiently, taking one step at a time. And she is a person who leads by example. I think that is super important.
Yeah.
Because someone's starting a mission and, hey, I want all of you to contribute. And if she's going to sit back, no, things don't go.
Yeah.
Interestingly, even if things are not going the other side, she'll be like, no, let us do for this country. Let us do this. I'm like, the government is not supporting. She's like, it's okay. Irrespective of the government supporting or not, we would be there for the child. And when we do that, we have things turning around.
Extraordinary thoughts.
And I think it needs a lot of energy, and I sometimes feel, hey, it is too tiring. But no. Seeing her, right, she just rubbed that quality in me. I can't say, this is my business. No, everyone's business is my business. Every child's dream, I think it's my business to really nurture that. And now I've made it a point, every regional place in Australia, the girls should have access to Mission Shakti Sat. Well, I want to make it 108, reach everywhere. But I think once we have a strong system and a model, right, it'll help me to do the same with other countries as well. So I'm just building that system here, and I want to show the world this is what we built in Australia. We are going to continue Mission Shakti Sat. And interestingly, we have one child from each of the 108 countries, along with the ambassador, traveling to India August 23rd. To build a physical satellite, to learn to integrate and test the satellite. And we are hosted by the president of the country.
It's exciting to hear, and I'm really happy to imagine what that event gonna be. All the best. Convey my wishes to Srimati Kasen as well. She's such a mission-oriented, positive person I have ever seen, coming from a non-traditional background. She doesn't have space background, but
She doesn't have engineering background. She's not with the tech field.
Yes.
But she does things which no one, she will, I can proudly say she'll eat anyone for breakfast, lunch and dinner at the same time. Because I think after a certain level, the technical skills anyone can learn. And she actually, she does the soldering. She does everything, herself, for the rocket, for the satellite launcher. She's the one like, yeah, let's do it. She'll bring it together. She'll work on the designing part.
Yeah.
Because I think it is the fire inside you.
Yes.
Yes, I want to do it, that determination. This lady, she works 26 hours a day. She borrows 2 hours from the next day. I'll be like, hey, sometimes it makes me feel, okay, so not enough. We have more to do because I can never compete. Like I would say, even if I'm able to be 10% of what she is, world will be a great place. We need more people. Like it is not about the tech skills going forward. It is about that humanity. How are you going to connect everyone? The unity is strength. That is so true. But how are you going to bring that? How are you going to closely knit? And Australia, we are in a very advantageous position because we have over 300 nationalities that call Australia the home.
Okay.
So I am just envisioning bringing all the innovation of each of these countries together, in our innovation festival, and a lot of dreams. I'm sure one by one.
Yeah, and also the scale of the Mission Shakti SAT initiative is genuinely extraordinary. The efforts Srimati Kesan is putting, it's massive and extraordinary.
I have to mention it here. She keeps hopping from flight to flight, hardly sleeps. I remember when she was in South Africa, I think. For 3 days, she didn't eat any food. She only had water because she was running meetings after meetings after meetings. She wanted to, see things coming through. So for a person who does so much of hard work, again, you will have a different set of opinion that we are glorifying all these sacrifices, but someone has to do it.
Yes.
And we're not just like glorifying. Sometimes I feel, don't say how huge it is. You also play the part because it is your responsibility as well. In whatever possible way. We're not talking about giving only money. You can spread the word. You could follow our post. You could reshare it. You could talk about it to someone that you know. You could bring your company as a CSR partner. Donate $2 to the moon. It doesn't have to be massive, but a collective effort. Right? For me, that is so fascinating because a person who can drive so much. And what are the returns? Why should she do? Or sometimes I would feel, why even you want to do? But I don't ask her. And I don't want to ask because I want to follow that path. Because a person who doesn't want to do it will be asking, why do you need to do all this? You should take care. That is always there. But if your soul is burning with, no, I want to do it, I want to do it. I'm just embedding her leadership style and it has brought peace to me. Just doing it, being aggressive, firing people. I've been on that side where I just do it. If it's not working, okay, forget it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But Dr. Kesan is about forgiveness, about kindness, about compassion. That is giving inner peace for me. It really works because I have a daughter. She's growing, seeing all this. And I'm very sure, I don't know which field my daughter would take. She would really make a difference because this is the exposure you're giving. Talking to different countries, we're discussing, your country is having this problem. How are we going to solve it? This is something the government should do, actually. But the governments are not involved. So we might as well say, why am I doing it? It's a government's activity. I can just sit quiet. No. What will the children do? So interestingly now, because of Dr. Kesan, I feel every child is my child as well.
Yeah.
And that is really like shaking a chord. And it is good. And sometimes it is really, when a child goes through something, well, I don't know this child very well, but still it really affects me very badly. But I think overall, yes, the net positive is what it counts. So,
Yeah. So, and also the mission aims to engage 12,000 students across 108 countries. The scale is enormous. When you first heard of this idea, did it feel impossible to you?
no. Like knowing me, right? For me, anything of large scale is exciting. I'm like, yes, let's do it. That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah.
So that too after a break
Yes.
with my daughter. When I heard 108, I was like, yes, I love it. Yes, let's do it. I didn't think twice or anything. I'm like, okay, first time ever. Yeah, we have to make it happen. Because for me, I feel to conceive something, all these are ideas in air. For us to bring that to life.
Yes.
There is no this 9 to 5 balance and rubbish. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because, you are giving birth to an idea. It takes so much energy than you can imagine. You can't do it in 9 to 5.
Yes.
My husband would say, Suk, you're not working 9 to 5. You're working 5 to 9. I'm like, whatever it means. But yeah.
Yeah, because I see beyond the numbers, which is large, 12,000 numbers. What makes this truly powerful is the experience these girls will actually receive from different leaders like Srimati Kesan, you, right? I don't know people from other countries, so I'm only mentioning you both.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have 108 powerful leaders, one ambassador for each of the country. And each of our ambassadors are amazing. I just can't say how wonderful they are. And interestingly, everyone has got a very, I wouldn't say their life was very easy. There's been a lot of challenges. They've gone through so many things. But what I really love is they choose to give back kindness. So we all have a choice. Yeah, life has not been easy and pleasant. So you throw hatred, saying, I hate the society. This is, it is not fair. Or you say, okay, society is like this. Maybe society also needs some help. How am I? Well, it's a process. It doesn't happen immediately. We have to go through everything. But I think kindness is the only solution. And all our ambassadors have taken that as a conscious choice. Not that they have so much to give back. Whatever they have, whatever hard, tough the situation is, many of them are single moms, lot of different, right? Not having kids, lost their child, recently lost their parents, or recently spouses. Not a lot of different permutation combination you could imagine.
Yeah.
Still, they choose to, and they're all amazing leaders and role models for their children.
Yes.
And I'm very thrilled to meet all of them in person because we've met them during the launch, and I keep interacting with them, for different occasions, for deadlines normally. But I have to say, I love every single ambassador of Mission Shakti Sat. And I'm super excited to meet you all in person on August 23rd. And we all keep saying, our muscles are going to hurt because we smile so much. Even before the meetings or anything, when we have a key update, I just text every single one of them. It's not through group. I text them individually, these ambassadors. And we are like, yes, let's do it. Let's wear the same color. Let's take photos. We do all that. But yeah, meeting in person, we are very thrilled.
It's amazing to be part of such great mission. So what message do you hope a 12-year-old girl watching this episode takes away from Mission Shakti Sat?
There are so many messages. You can pick up whatever you want. But one thing I like to say this child, whoever is watching, everyone watching, is don't limit yourself. You can become anybody you want to become in life. You could become, and you don't have to be only one person. Today, if you decide, well, I want to experience journalism, I want to contribute for BBC, for example.
Yeah.
You can develop the skills, you can work there. And, this is quite interesting. I want to be part of UNESCO. Yes, you can. But everything takes hard work. There is no shortcut to it.
Yes.
So you could become anybody you want to become. So you choose who you want to become. And don't compare yourself with your friends or, my friends are doing this. Why should I be doing that? Well, it is your life. You should decide. I know one child who I spoke to recently. Even before, this child is 12 years old. She has enrolled herself for flying lessons. Even before she is eligible for a driving license. And she's very clear. I want to become an astronaut. I want to become a pilot. So, and 12 years. And she does everything. She researches. Use technology wisely. You have so much to gain from technology. You ask the right questions, you'll get the right output. So use all this wisely. Because your ancestors, for me, what drives me is my great-grandmom, if she had these opportunities, she would have ruled this world. Well, she didn't. But she sacrificed so much so that I get to here. I get to this spot. So is your case. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, they would have gone through so much for you to comfortably be at this stage to, enjoy life, to go to a good school, for everything that you have. So please make them proud.
Yeah.
Before taking any decision in your life, big or small, think about your ancestors. That gives me the strength. So this is my great-grandmom's bangle, actually. So I always, I think about this lady sacrificed. She sold her ancestral property just for me to pursue my education in engineering.
Okay.
So for me, this degree, whatever I do, is not, yeah, it is good to have. No. It is a honor that I'm giving back to this lady for all the sacrifices that she has done. And if you're all able to pay back to your ancestors for everything they've done for your family, I think, yeah, we all will. And there is so much to do in this world. There's no room for competition.
Yeah.
So you're very unique. You like to sing and dance, do it. You're all so unique. You don't have to be exactly like a clone of another person.
Yeah.
Whoever you want to be, just be. And you don't have to be only one person. You could be multiple people. Don't be multiple people at the same time. That is hard.
Yeah.
But choose your work. Work super hard. There is no shortcut to hard work. These young generation think, oh, smart work is important. Who will work hard? Never. You have to work super hard. Only then you will find a smart way.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you.
So I think if the new generation, they're confident, they're able to speak their mind, which, well, if I had that skill long time ago, I would have been a different person. But I'm grateful for everything, the exposure I've got. The parents are giving very good support for their dreams.
Yeah.
That is really important because I had to be a rebel at home to do the things I did because we don't work when we are in uni back in India.
Yeah.
And evening I have to go and work. So my great-grandmom, for that reason, she'll be like, before the sunset, you have to be at home. You're going to work after sunset. What is it? I'll be like, no, it's not going to work. This is what I'm doing. I took her to my robotics class,
Okay.
coding, and she's like, what is it? I said, exactly. If you want, you enroll in my class too. But this is what I'm doing. This is what I will do. And I'm not going to, take your no for an hour. And
Yeah.
we always thought, what will our neighbors think?
Yes.
So what I did was I took my mom and grandparents, my great-grandmom as well, to my neighbor. And I said, I'm working in a coding company. I have to do that after college hours because I have my college. And my college was like a 40-kilometer one way from my home. So I said, do you have a problem? He said, no. I said, my mom is so worried that you will say something. And by the way, you are having a lot of beer and leaving the bottle here. I have a problem. Are you going to change? No. So why would, my mom is always worried about you, what you would think, what you would say.
Yeah.
That shifted my mom's perspective. Because my mom and my dad, they got separated, at the same time when this happened. And I was born to my mom when she was 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And for both my grandparents, they were 41. My mom's dad and my mom's mom and my dad's mom, both of them, they were 41 exactly. So my dad's mom saw me like her daughter because she had 2 sons. And she's like, and I'm the 6th generation girl. No boys born on my mom's side. All are girls. And my daughter is the 7th generation. All girls. No. So with all these dynamics happening, right? Sometimes at that point of time, it might be really annoying and be like, oh, this is too much for me. But they all teach life lessons. And with the young generation able to find out things very quickly, I would really love it if they are able to question, what is this trying to teach me? Or if you're going through something, what am I going to learn out of it? These 2 questions. If you're going to learn, then you will not play that victim mode because life is very tough, very challenging than you can imagine for so many people out there. We are really in a blessed spot. And for people who go through living hell, they have a lot of optimism in life.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, then why are we really whinging about, why is the weather like this? I don't have control about the weather. So I always prefer to wear some yellow or bright pink because I can't control the weather, but I can control my mood. I'm my own sunshine. So try to, be that light around because that way you'll be very unique.
And you also describe yourself as an ethical storyteller. This is such a powerful phrase. what does ethical storytelling mean to you?
No talking nonsense for the sake of going viral. That's what I mean by ethical. Because when we say ethical, you have to give both the sides of the same coin with factual statistics.
Yeah.
And as a storyteller, as a journalist, my role is not to be biased, not to put thoughts on the reader's mind that this is right or this is wrong. It's up to a reader. I'm just giving all the information
Yes.
that is missing. We are either supporting something or we're opposing something. That is not ethical storytelling. And you plant nonsense in people's mind.
Yes.
And when you see the news is negativity, why don't you see any good things happening in the world? It is, why is it always, complaints, binging?
Yes.
And that, really that should change. Because that affects the mind of a person. The perception of world is a good place is really going off.
Yeah.
There can be a thief anywhere around us. All are scammers.
Yeah.
All are, it is, then how will the next generation have confidence on the society?
Yeah. This has become an era of misinformation.
Yes.
It's like, see, I resonate what you just said before. Many people said, why you just being so quiet during the podcast? Why can't you, react it in a different way to make it viral thing? Why? What is the necessity to go viral, to make it viral? It's just like, I don't want to put myself in the spot and also guest in the spot. Be comfortable, make the guest comfortable, just don't get too much excited about what you are talking, what you are hearing from the guest. No, nothing. It should be plain, simple. One question, one answer. That's it. It's like there is no necessity of need to go viral. We're not just doing some random things about life, right? We are talking about something serious technology where people want to get inspired. People have to know which companies exist, which space companies exist, what are the technologies they're working on. We want to talk about something serious technologies people are working on that are useful for the future of humanity, right? So I don't think there is no need of the whole drama. Yeah.
Interestingly, Mr. Arnab Goswami, who's known for that, the nation wants to know style of things, he's mellowed down a lot. In recent interview, I'm like, is this seriously Mr. Arnab? Doesn't look like Mr. Goswami. It's like completely changed because, as you rightly say, it is not about that, quick attention span or you want to grab. If our ears will only be tuned to those shouting and, harsh things, we're missing the subtle emotions of, the gravity of humanness.
Yeah.
And that is what governs all of us by end of the day.
Yeah, it is. I think like misinformation is spreading faster, right? So I don't think it is safe for humanity.
It is not.
Yeah.
So I think even people who consume it, right, should know from the place where it is coming.
Yes.
You can't just see everything, believe everything, because more than being creators, we are being consumers.
Yes.
We're consuming so much,
Yeah.
but we don't have time. Interestingly, no time. I don't have time. But you sit on Netflix, gone, all the time is gone.
Yes.
3 hours. Well, I can say that for myself too. That is why I wrote my first book. Which is Procrastination from Excuses to Empowerment. Because my mentor says you're lazy. And I'm like, I'm not lazy. I work super hard. That is when I realized opportunities are everywhere.
Yeah.
We don't see what we can make out of things because we don't act on it immediately and we lose it. And then when it is gone, then we're like, nothing comes to me. I'm like, no, you just lost so many. Every second presents opportunities. We're not tuned. We are only tuned to, I want it this way.
Yes.
If this is not my way, then no, God is not kind. My parents are not supportive. The system is not good.
They're all excuses, I believe.
Exactly.
They're all excuses. If you want to aim to do something, if you really want to achieve there, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you.
Different ways. And
Yeah.
to be honest, you just have a vision. And if you just focus on how you're going to get there, you would actually surpass more than what you thought you would.
Yeah.
Because with Amos, I never thought, these are all byproducts.
Yeah.
But then I felt it is very important to have this because this has been bugging me. So I have a diary where I've written so many things right from when I moved to this country, what I want to change. So when I turn back, I'm like, okay, it's interesting that our foundation is doing that because many others also resonate with it. And if you want to, move things, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with ethical storytelling, it is super important that nowadays everyone are journalists. Even we, right, who write in social media, we also become kind of, it's all citizen-led journalism.
Yes.
So what you're going to post, how true is it? We should also take care of that. It should start because we are all becoming one.
Yes. That is true. So, in today's world, as we discussed, communication shapes public trust in science. Why do you think science communication is becoming increasingly important?
What scientists think and translate to public. You know the story. Do you think it's rocket science? I don't understand anything. I'm like, okay. And scientists have things, what they say, people don't understand. You can't blame them. Because until I had this experience of going to a Bollywood dance party, I can't dance. And I don't follow movies. Interestingly, I've interviewed Ayushmann Khurrana and, very interesting people, Shahid Kapoor and all of them for the media platforms.
Okay.
But I don't follow much movies. So when I went there, everyone are doing Kala Chashma, all these moves, and I'm just looking, like, so come on, dance. I'm like, no, I can't dance. Come on, you know this move? And I felt like a complete idiot. I felt, why did I even come here? I just want to get out. That is when it got me to thinking, when we have scientists addressing common people, or, a common person comes to this science ecosystem, they will not understand anything. And they are like, they feel humiliated. When am I going to get out of this?
Yes.
That is how it is. So we have to break that barrier.
Yeah.
The more science becomes a common conversation at home, that is when it is a success. And we don't need to go for government funding. Why are you always begging? The government doesn't have money. Just go to government and say, give me money, give me money, give me fund, give me fund. I tell to anybody, any political leader that I speak to any country, I'm not here for your money. I know you don't have money. I am working on ways on how I can generate more money to your treasury. That is my focus. Because you're going to always take. It's not going to work. And if people are very distant to science communication, it's really not going to work.
Yeah, that's true. So, as you mentioned, you have contributed to media platforms like SBS and worked in communication globally. How can media help make space more accessible to everyday people?
Very important question. And this is a very important solution for people to know more about space. Because space is not something very distant. It's part of our everyday life, satellites, rockets. So people think I have nothing to do with it. But it's the role of media to actually communicate all this and share it with the public. So the more correct information goes out. So I see Spacefront as a very important platform. And many platforms like this should come forward to talk about what is actually happening in the sector for people to consume it. Because I see you as a media platform as well, as a community or a industry-led media platform. Because, the mainstream media, they might be like, this story will not sell for us. We need... So it's okay. We don't have to go for mainstream. Now people are consuming through YouTube and many other different platforms. And we need more and more coming forward to taking this. Because I do a lot of community work as well. And interestingly, when I told one lady that I'm heading all-female lunar space mission, she felt offended. She's like, "What are you talking? No, this is so much of disrespect." I had to run to my car, show my card to her, telling this is a real thing. She said, "I thought you're making fun of me and insulting me." So that is the thing. When I say I am working with a space mission, they think I'm mazak uda rahe ho. You're just making fun. You have a good sense of humor. I'm like, no, this is my job. So we need to have more people into space, walk amongst the common people as well.
Yeah, it is actually required. People think that space is something fancy now, but it is not. They treat someone belonging to space sector is alien. Yes, but it is not. We are normal humans, right? So we should normalize this concept of space technology.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you think space organizations sometimes struggle to communicate the human side of their missions?
Slowly, I see a change happening in this side of things because when we say space, it's for the elite. It is for, the rich people see all the launches. I'm like, everyone can see it because internet has democratized the whole ecosystem. So I do see space companies are coming forward to say, share what is happening and as much things are happening in LinkedIn so that, everyone can see, people can follow whoever they want. And we need more of these happening. We are starting that avalanche,
Yes.
but you need long way to go.
Yeah, I think emotional connection, establishing that emotional connection is really, really important considering this generation. Uh, that can also that has the power to transform public interest. So, moving on to next question, how do we make people emotionally connect with space exploration?
Just ask them to look into the star. And it is such an emotional moment.
Yeah.
Because immediately, instantly, when we say space, everyone's eyes goes like it pops up and they're like, wow. And all you have to do is, hey, look up in the sky. There is this connect right away.
Yeah.
And the rest is magic.
Yeah, because you are trying to blend storytelling, leadership, education, and innovation in such a unique way, and you are trying to do it through Amos Foundation, which is really inspiring to me. Yeah, because I have heard many no's, as you said at the start of our episode. I heard many no's, people discouraging me because when I have taken my first master's, I did my first master's in Italy. So it was during 2015 to 17. Many people said, is it really important for you? You did your bachelor's in aeronautical, that is okay. But is it important for a girl to pursue higher education and spend more money, waste more money, just because your parents are supporting you? It is not about supporting, it's about how ambitious you are, how much you're thriving, to learn something be different from the normal group, right? So I really had bad experiences and good experiences as well. But the good thing, what I really do is no matter who that person is, the one who is giving me good suggestions, but no matter who that is, what they're saying, I will only take what I can take from people say. And that's the best thing we can do. Because we just can't keep going with what everyone say, right? So grab only that you want to
Absolutely.
and ignore whatever you can just for you to be positive. Have that to maintain a positive life, right?
Yes.
So that is really required for every girl, every woman in this current scenario. For
Very
sure.
important.
Yeah.
Because for me, if I hear some unwanted or unasked suggestion, I'll run away from that place physically.
Yeah.
This is the case from 2012s. I'll just have people giving free advice for no reason.
Yes.
I'm like, I didn't. And interestingly, these people will come. Listen, if you talk to me for 1 hour, you will get 3 years of my experience. And they would say, you can't bring more than 100 people to your educational robotics expo. I got 5,000 people. I ran away from the room when I heard that. I got 5,000 people. The same person comes to me after that. We are doing this educational expo with the government. I would love for you to work with us.
Yeah.
Fred, just listening to your words, I got 3 years of experience. I did this. You talk to yourself, it'll be helpful. And I ran away from that place.
Because many women, see, I don't want to talk about all the humans here. I just want to talk about girls and women. They are just limiting their beliefs, which is stopping for them to achieve their goals. No, please stop limiting yourself.
200%.
Yeah.
Because I was one of them, actually, Divya. Because I thought, if I have a kid, I can't do anything. Well, because of my daughter, I'm doing something that I never ever imagined to do in life.
Yeah.
I've been postponing to have my daughter. God's grace, she was an accident baby. She was born. I'm like, oh my God. Then the moment I was pregnant, I thought, okay, I'm going to wrap everything. I'm going to take time with her.
Yeah.
But, you don't have to have this or this. Everything can exist.
Yes.
And it can exist with ease. You don't have to have guilt of, am I a good mom? Am I a good wife? Am I a good daughter? Not required. Because we are the best of everything. And if someone is asking you questions, oh, this and oh, that, it is insecurity from them. It is not your problem.
Yeah. That's those small balancing acts are mandatory in everyone's life.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and also you have written books, worked in media, and built global initiatives. Do storytelling and leadership go hand in hand for you?
200%. Because without storytelling, you can't sell.
Yeah.
If you just say, hey, I want you to do this. Why?
Yeah.
Everything needs a story to connect.
Yes.
And only leadership is all about people resonating
Yeah.
with your thought, with your vision, with your journey.
Yes.
Why Amos is being a success, we are able to bring everyone together because the problems that I share, everyone has gone through.
Yeah.
Or, they're like the people they know have gone through. They want to make a change. They don't want the system to be the same way.
Yeah.
That's why. So I can't say, because of me. No. Because of the concept, because of the gap the system is having, and we genuinely want to, we've addressed it the right way in a good storytelling manner, that we have all the players coming forward.
Yeah.
It is not my greatness or no. I would say it is a greatness of people who've joined because they are all amazing leaders in their own sector and they've taken time. They give me advice, they speak, they give their inputs. So storytelling is a very crucial thing
Yes.
in any form of leadership.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm not able to, use any words beyond what you're explaining. I have no comments. It's just that, that positivity thing. I completely agree because whatever you're trying to put in your words, they're clear, positive.
So I think I'm a good communicator then.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
So what's one misconception people have about successful leaders?
It all comes easy. She became lucky. She got it all. No, no one becomes lucky. Success is not by chance. It is your blood and sweat and hard work. Maybe if you got it a little easier, just turn back and think about the great things your ancestors have done.
Yes.
Because it cannot happen by chance. Your parents, your grandparents, maybe they didn't get the opportunity or the recognition that they should have got in their lifetime, but they've really done a lot of hard work. That is why you're getting these chances. Because I have realized that many times I've thought, well, I am not even 5% of both my grandparents, both my granddads. Because one of them is a gold medalist in mechanical engineering, another one he's an educator, like both of them or no more. And another one is an educator who's authored over 90 books, 65 years into education.
Okay.
And his goal was to give dignity to his students. He was in a very, remote, in a village, and students come to for the tuition and all that, and they will not have money. So he will say, it's okay, give whatever veggies you've grown in your garden, give the rice and all that. That is where slowly, I'm thinking, yeah, give them dignity. That comes to my head. He's authored over 90 books. And my first book authoring it started after I lost my granddad. I felt when he was around, I didn't do it. I did it for him.
Yeah.
In reminding, because I feel people are here to go.
Yes.
But when you go, what is that you've left behind? And how is your legacy continuing?
Yeah.
Because for me, yes, my grandparents, my granddads are no more. And well, I have both my grandmoms around. My great-grandparents, I was fortunate to have seen them and all. Though they have gone in, in body, they live with me in spirit. Because I teach that quality of them to my daughter. This is what your great-great-grandmom did. We should hold that intact. They're living through their deeds. Yes. I cook certain way, I talk certain way, I'm able to process things certain way because of them.
Yes.
So we have to, own our identity, own the sacrifices, and success is not by chance. You actually carve every single path. Be truthful. Don't hurt people in your journey. Be sincere to anything that you do. Work crazy hard and you are unstoppable. You are like unbelievably the dangerous person in the world because you will get to whatever you want in life.
That's amazing. So, through your journey, when you think long term, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I have not thought about it because I have a very long way to go. Because if I'm going to set my destiny now itself, then, I know that my brain is not expanding.
Yeah.
So I might skip this question about legacy. But one thing I feel is I want to give equal opportunity. I want to give access. I want to give dignity to all technologists.
Yeah.
And 2050, okay, I'll be 60 years old at that time.
Yeah.
So Australia will be the global innovation hub. But legacy.
Yeah.
I'll come again to your interview. And we'll talk about that in your maybe 150th episode.
150th episode.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
We will do that.
Yeah. So finally, what advice would you give who dream of entering the space industry?
Just enter. And keep doing things. Any opportunity that comes in, keep doing. I've already given enough nyans. So start executing them. It's super important. Don't keep listening to all the podcasts. Don't get this motivation and I'm tired, I want to sleep. Don't do that. Take actions.
Yeah.
So after you finish this podcast, close everything and do whatever you have planned to do right away.